Dear reader, I'm Tony, and this is Book Text. I have collected some more books, surprise, surprise. So this is my May/June 2020 book haul. But first, our word of the day. This is a first because we've never done an adverb yet on this channel. The word of the day is foot hot. Foot hot. It's a little bit more archaic, hasn't been really recorded since the 1880s, but is an adverb meaning in great haste, without slowing down. So you can run after someone foot hot. I think it probably is very similar to the modern phrase hot on the heels. So you follow someone hot on your heels or hot on their heels. So foot hot. I'm going to try and use it in casual conversation sometime this week, and I'll tell you how it goes. So, back to my book haul. The thrift stores in my area have reopened, and when I feel anxious, I go to the thrift stores and I look at their book selection, and they have awesome book selections at these thrift stores. I think it's because there's two possible reasons for this. One, I might be getting better at recognizing top quality books and authors and titles. Two, there are a lot of universities in the area, and I think because you have people who are more scholarly, who fall in love with reading, you get more scholarly books in the thrift stores because it's their leftovers. So either way, I found a lot of great books, and I'm not actually going to share all of them with you because I bought 62 books this month, and a little bit of last month. So instead I've selected 26 books, which I thought were more interesting to talk about. Some of them were maybe repeats, children's books, things that I don't read a ton of by myself, but I might read with somebody else, a family member or something. So I'm going to share the top 26 books that I purchased, and they are in this wobbly tower over here. We'll make sure that it doesn't fall on me. Let's hope. So first, I have Alice Hoffman's The River King, and this looks like it's a book about a town that has been divided for some reason, and something happens, a tragic thing happens, and people are coming back together. This division is being mended. I don't know very much about Alice Hoffman or about The River King, but it's got this really interesting cover. It's a little bit of an older book, not too old, but I would say late 80s. Oh, whoops, it is from 2000, so I'm really off with my judgment there. But it just looked quite interesting about this divided town coming back together. So that's Alice Hoffman's The River King. Then I have Madeleine L'Engle's A Circle of Quiet. And this is an autobiography memoir kind of book. So not like her Wrinkle in Time series, but something that seems a little bit quieter, a little bit more quaint. It's about the time she spent in a farmhouse of charming confusion. And I love that. So it's about her family growing together, living together. Looks like several generations are living together. In fact, the very first line is about several generations. We are 4 generations under one roof this summer, from infant Charlotte to almost 90 great-grandmother. And that sounds like there will be some good family times to read about. Then I got Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler. I've already read this book. It was bizarre, and it rattled my brain. It is in second person, so you are the main character of the book, and the actions that you are doing are reading a book. You are the character, and the character is reading a book. It was very strange, and yet I loved it. So just to read a little bit from the back, because I can't explain it perfectly. If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler turns out to be not one novel, but 10, each with a different plot, style, ambience, and author, and each interrupted at a moment of suspense. That was also frustrating. Together they form a labyrinth of literatures, known and unknown, alive and extinct, through which 2 readers, a male and a female, both written to you as you, pursue both the storylines that intrigue them and one another. So they fall in love over the story. It's really bizarre because you were falling in love with yourself. They are the true heroes of the novel, but for what would writing be without readers? And to just illustrate how like meta this book gets, the first line is, "You are about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel, If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler." Really, it was really interesting, all about kind of books and reading and weird stuff. I loved it. I also got Anna Quindlen's book, Rise and Shine. This is a story of a woman who is the host of a morning talk show and her relationship with her sister. I don't know anything about it beyond that, except that I do enjoy Anna Quindlen. I have read one of her books that was actually about reading. It was nonfiction. This is a novel, but it's about sisterhood and friendship, and I love that. That theme will come up in several of these books. This one, I don't know how to say this author's name. Proulx? We'll call her Annie. So this is obviously Pulitzer Prize winner. It's called The Shipping News by Annie Proulx. I don't know. Annie. And it is about a family that has a tragedy and they are putting their lives back together. They're all trying to get a fresh start. That's all I know, except that it has won an award. But I'm intrigued, I'm interested, want to read some award winners. At least own award winners, right? Then I have Annie Dillard's Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, and I wasn't sure what genre this was, because I know Annie Dillard is an essayist, at least. But it seems that she is also a poet, a literary theorist. This one is a personal narrative. So this is a little bit more memoir-y, but she writes a lot about nature, and I love nature writing, so I'm looking forward to reading her nature memoirs. Then I have a Eudora Welty's The Golden Apples. I also recently acquired some other short stories by her, but that book was only called The 13 Stories or something really simple like that. So this is a collection of short stories by Eudora Welty, who was writing, and I believe they're all set in the American South. Not sure if they're all set in it, but a majority of them are. And I don't read a lot of stories from the American South. And I think they're early 20th century. If I'm not mistaken, she was writing in that era. Cool fact about this copy of the book: there is a stamp. It's hard to see, but it's like the kind of, I don't know what the word is, embossed almost into the paper from the owner, Russell Clough. This comes from his library. So yeah, these were written in the late 40s. So just barely kind of early mid 20th century. Finally got myself a copy of the Betsy-Tacy, well, this is the first Betsy-Tacy book, by Maud Hart Lovelace. It's an adorable copy. It's kind of large font. I'm sure it's, for children to read, but I have loved seeing all the Betsy-Tacy videos that have come out on BookTube recently, and decided it was time for me to own and try Betsy-Tacy. I'm so excited about that I found this book because it's out of print and the author is local and I've met her and I've read her books from the library, but I wanted to own a copy of everything she's written because she's hilarious and she's heartfelt and whimsical, and they're about, down-to-earth real people. This is The Unlikely Romance of Kate Bjorkman by Louise Plummer, and the main character of this story is a teenage girl who writes romance novels. And her life turns out to be like a romance novel, but very, very tame, And her family is immigrants from the Netherlands, and so she has kind of that element. I think they're from the Netherlands, because Louise Plummer was also Dutch. Anyway, they're funny, they're enjoyable. I just absolutely love them. I have a hard time describing them, obviously, but I love these books. And so I got really excited that I have a copy now. It's a library copy, but still, I have a copy of The Unlikely Romance of Kate Bjorkman. My cat has come to join me, as he does whenever I sit on the floor. He actually usually bites me when I'm on the floor because he wants me to play with him or something. not quite sure. My next book is The Turner House by Angela Flournoy. And this is about a family of children who all grew up in this house. So 13 children grew up in the house. And when the parents pass away, they all have to come back to the house and kind of deal with maybe process their memories and their feelings about growing up. Sounds kind of sad, poignant, but interesting. I have a pattern of these kind of family dramas that I have recently purchased. This one, one of the things I'm trying to do better is reading translated fiction, because I tend to read a lot of American and British novels. And so this is, surprisingly, there was a lot of translated fiction at the thrift stores. This is The Old Man Who Read Love Stories by Louise Sepulveda. And this is, so he's Chilean, and Chilean German, because he was exiled from Chile. And this is about an old man who is kind of a recluse. He loves to read old love stories. And he used to be a kind of a jungle expert, a hunting expert. And what I think happens in this book is that it's a little bit of a story about respecting nature, because it sounds like some of the people in his village, a trader, so maybe not even someone from the village, has created a situation in which a mother ocelot is hunting people. And then this old man gets dragged into this situation where he has to track down the ocelot, knowing that it's not her fault. And so, short book, kind of interesting premise, but also translated fiction. So I will be adding this to my TBR soon. I have another Alice Hoffman book. This is Turtle Moon, and this is about a mother and her teenage son, or at least young adult son, who she ends up tracking him down around the country, trying to find him, because he has gone on the run from his Florida home. I thought it was something more exciting, but she follows him, I think, from Florida to, it just says she takes off on her own journey to find him. So I'm not sure where they go. New York, maybe? Doesn't say. But another family drama. I love that it kind of, that these stories really zoom in on the closest relationships that we usually have as people. And I'm really interested in those kinds of stories. Then I have one that is not about blood sisters, but about friend sisters. So they have found sisterhood in friendship. This is Sister of My Heart by, hopefully pronounce this name correctly, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, who I believe is from Calcutta. At least the story is set in Calcutta, so Indian. Is this translated, or did she write it in English? Probably she wrote it in English because she now teaches in Houston, so, or at least at the time of the publication of this book. So Indian American, probably. And this is the story of two girls in India who grow up as best friends and how they stay friends through all the tragedies of their lives. So it looks at Indian culture and how Indian women have to live in certain circumstances. I'm not sure about the time period of this, if it's more modern or if it's historical, but I'm most interested in the relationship between these best friends, as, per usual. Then I got two Alexander McCall Smith books, but they are not, as far as I can tell, part of his mystery series. So this first one is by Italian Bulldozer, and this appears to be the beginning of a series, maybe a trilogy. Not sure how many books are going to be in this series, or if the series is finished already. But My Italian Bulldozer is about a man who gets dumped and goes to Italy to try to restart his life, and maybe finds love in Italy. So another kind of quaint, calm, lovely book. The other one is 44 Scotland Street, which is about an apartment complex and the various quirky people who live there. I love those kind of stories, so I'm really looking forward to more Alexander McCall Smith. Then on a recommendation from Victober readers, I bought H.G. Wells's Love and Mr. Lewisham. Lewisham? Not sure how to pronounce Lewisham, probably. This is a huge departure from my typical H.G. Wells readings, which are usually science fiction, right? Futuristic situations. Last year I read War of the Worlds, loved it. It was totally freaked out by it. A very scary book. But this is about a romance that I think goes kind of sour for the character. So really interesting for me to see a different side to H.G. Wells' writing. I also got another Virago modern classic. This is The Night of Cheerful Countenance by Molly Keane. I don't know a ton about this book, but I know that it was Molly Keane's first book that she ever wrote. It was published originally in 1926, but then kind of got lost in book history and was rediscovered in the 70s, I think. And she wrote it when she was a teenager. I think she was 17. It just says her first novel on the back here, but I believe I read somewhere that she was really young when she wrote this. And I'm just kind of interested in seeing her early works. Love this era of writing anyway. Then I got one World War II novel. This is The Lost Garden by Helen Humphreys. And from what I can tell, this is a book about a woman who escapes from London during the Blitz in 1941. And she goes to work as a land girl and is kind of revamping this garden and experiences love and friendship and all sorts of interesting relationships where she is in the countryside. So looking forward. It's another short book. I love this cover too. So I'm looking forward to that book. This book grabbed me because of the title. It is Richard Peck's Here Lies the Librarian. Richard Peck usually writes kind of middle grade, young adult novels, children's books, that kind of range. And this fits right in there. The main character is 13 or 14. And she's a tomboy, and she is intrigued by this wealthy librarian who motors into town in her motor car and kind of upends the lives of this small town. Looking forward to reading this. It's going to be a little bit of a lighter book, I can imagine, due to the age group. But I really want to figure out why the librarian is lying. Did she die? What happens? On a heavier note, I have Leslie Marmon Silko's Ceremony, and this is some Native American writing. So the main character is a young Native American man who was a prisoner of war in Japan during World War II, I think. Yeah, prisoner of the Japanese during World War II. And when he returns home, he finds that a lot of his fellow veterans and fellow POWs are turning to alcohol and drugs to kind of cope with what happened to them. And he goes out into nature in search of something that's a little bit more healthy. And so I'm looking forward to learning more about kind of the spirituality of his culture and about his experience coping with that horrible trauma that occurred in his young life. Then I have some more historical fiction. This one, again, the title caught me, and then the title page, the cover caught me. This is Pope Joan by Donna Woolfolk Cross. And this is obviously historical fiction about the real woman who disguised herself as a man and joined the church as a monk. She started as a monk, I believe, in a Benedictine monastery and rose through the ranks of the church. And it's kind of interesting to me, really looking forward to learning about this different time period and a different kind of story than you might read about that time period. I have another, I think this one is historical. This goes along with the Sister of My Heart book. This is called Homeless Bird by Gloria Whalen. And this is about a young woman growing up in India and figuring out how to cope with tradition and with her fate. So trying to figure out how to live her own life. Sounds really interesting. Next, I was attracted to this book because it is about Emily Dickinson. This is historical fiction. It is called I Never Came to You in White by Judith Farr, and it is an epistolary novel about Emily Dickinson and her relationships with others. Don't know much more beyond that, but I will definitely be reading this. I love books that are about kind of literary figures. Then I'm going to finish off with some historical fiction. This is another Virago book. It is Sarah Dunant, Sacred Hearts. This is about women in a convent in the Renaissance, I believe, 1570 in Italy. Sounds really interesting. Don't know much more beyond that. Then I have this book by Sina Jeter Nasland. It is The Fountain of St. James Court, or Portrait of the Artist as an Old Woman. I believe this is about a woman who is studying an artist from the French Revolution era, a renowned painter, and starts to notice some parallels in their lives. Interesting, don't know much more beyond that, but I do love books that are about art as well. And last but not least, I have The Shadowland by Elizabeth Kostova, and this is about Bulgaria, and I believe this is a woman who kind of discovers maybe some family history there. She finds an urn with a person's name on it and is trying to figure out what happened to that person. So I imagine that it will kind of cross different timelines, like some other historical fiction out there. But I'm looking forward to learning a little bit about Bulgarian history, which I know diddly squat about Bulgarian history. So those are my 26 top purchases from May and June 2020. Are you also having a buying frenzy? I am quite embarrassed, and that I now need new bookshelves because I've bought so many books since the quarantine began. Yeah, I'm trying to support the book industry, and yet I'm also selfishly hoarding books for myself. I don't know what the purpose is behind that. I have underlying motives. But are you also buying books? Please tell me I'm not alone. And remember, there's always another book.